All right. Hello. Um, my name is Nerd, and today we're gonna do what's been recommended to me by one person, and I'm gonna do something similar to what I did to the starter Pokemon for the Pokemon Violet and Scarlet games, where I'm gonna go through each and every Quakecraft map and sort of rank them for myself, and just kind of see how I like them. And we're actually going to do something pretty special here where we're going to actually do a little tier list to keep engagement, to keep up with the kids. So when we get bored or after I'm done looking at a map, we're going to put it on the tier list here and kind of see what's up with it, you know? So hopefully you enjoy it, and let's get into it. We're going to start easy with Apex, going semi-regular order. To start with Apex, I will say I like the design. I think the design itself is probably one of my favorites. It's a classic design. The iron, the quartz with the slab and the red wool and the stone bricks, classic torches. I mean, you really cannot go wrong with this map design wise. Going into like flow of the map is a little rough because I feel, just me personally, I feel these maps were built with no idea of how Quakecraft would have evolved into. So like we have Dash now. This map wasn't created when Dash was a thing, you know? So you're getting people flying down these hallways, these tight little hallways, you know, these small little entries, you know, small hallways, things like that. They weren't meant for Dash. So I think with perspective, I think it was all right at the time. But with today's movement, it just does not work as well as some of the other maps that have been created since Dash was introduced into the game, and even some of the other maps that are just more open concept. I think overall, I like this map. It gives me a lot of nostalgia. And I'll be quite frank, going into this tier list, or just into this video, I feel a lot of maps I will enjoy. There's only a couple I might not enjoy. So I think overall, if we were to go to the tier list, I think Apex is going to be a very good map. I think it's not god tier as much as, you know, it is just a very good map. And like, I enjoy playing it. I think there are much better maps out there that could be that god tier quality. But I would never turn down playing an Apex game. So that's that, I think. All right. Going to the next map, I think we're going to go into sequential order for these maps. I think the next step up in map quality, and I do think this is, just as a little spoiler, a very, very good map, even better than Apex 2. Colors wise, it's almost identical to the, actually I believe it is completely identical to the block palette as Apex 1. But as you can see, this was created, I believe, I can't exactly remember when this was made, if it was made after the Dash, but honestly it doesn't even matter because these doorways are large. These are large doorways, big places, big open spaces, a proper mid, as much as Apex 1's little open area, you know, is kind of an epicenter for everyone to go to. This really is just the middle of the map. Everyone goes here. Everyone ends up here. There's always action here. You cannot miss it. Absolutely I think the flow, as I was getting into there, just works so much better. You end up getting to this center spot where you can fight, get people here, get people there, there, you know, there if they're just standing there. No places to camp, other than like this platform here, and then down there is a really big spot. But those are easily counterable. As much most camping spots are, you know, nowadays. I feel like you can stop a majority of them. From, you know, kind of winning the game there. I think overall my feelings with this map, I think it is generally a very I think this has to be and let's just go straight to the tier list here. I think this straight up has to be one of the best maps ever made, really. I think Apex 2 is a god tier map. I don't see why anyone would ever want to skip this map, just because it is so good looking with the Apex palette. Its flows so amazing, and the games you can have on this map are honestly some of the best you could ever have on this game. And finally, in the series of 3, we have Apex 3. It uses the same block palette as we've come to expect with the Apexes, and I think it looks great still. The open concept is even more suited for this dash going into the flow of the game. I think this map is absolutely chaotic, probably the craziest matches you could have in almost a bad way, just in my opinion. I think there is just so much going on in this, because the whole map is so open, so wide open. It's almost like it's entirely just one giant middle point. You spawn, say you spawn here, there is someone looking at you. You spawn over here, there is someone who can look at you right there. Spawn protection is probably a big problem in this game. I mean, in this map, sorry. Absolutely, you can see what the problem is when it comes to a lot of things in this map, in terms of just where the spawns are, how fast you need to shoot someone to make sure you don't die, and how annoying spawn prot can be in a certain situation like that. I think it looks very good. You know, kind of going back, I think it looks nice. I feel it strays away from what Apex really is. I feel like when you think of Apex, you're thinking of, you know, sort of the hallways, the very good mid. This feels very, especially the architecture up top, feels very brutalist with the sharp points. It's like you took Apex 2 and then you just shrunk me, and now here we are in this like sort of like brutalist, like I'm a micro person inside of an expanded Apex 2 block or whatever. I don't know, but it looks really odd. There's an H there. But going to the tier list, I think Apex 3, I think it's a good map. I think the games you can have in Apex, regular Apex, are a lot better than Apex 3. I mean, Apex 3 is fun, don't get me wrong. It is just more chaotic, and it can be really frustrating, especially with that spawn protection. And this is just me personally, really. So I think that's all for the Apexes. Let's move on to the next one. All right, moving on to the next map. This map's actually going to be a two-parter for us. Because when I was searching for these maps, I actually found a download for the original versions of some of these maps before they changed them. So if you're, you know, an old head, you know, older player, you probably remember what this looks like. I sure do. This is original Ancient. It has the block palette. I personally, going into just the design in general, I like the cathedral. I do not like what is this, granite? Yeah, I do not like granite. I think there's just so much of it in this map. It's a cool looking map. I like the stone on the outside. It's just there's so much granite. Me personally, not a big granite guy. I do like the roof being, you know, sort of like that. What is that? Oh my goodness, prismarine. Jesus, I just lost my train of thought there. But yeah, I think the cathedral looks nice. I just don't really like the block palette. I like the rocks. I think the rocks are pretty cool, and the trees. These trees, sort of like jungle acacia looking trees. Looks pretty good. Now the reason why this map is sort of well known. The game flow of this map is pretty rough. As you see with most maps that, at least in my opinion, feel like they are just so much worse than all the other ones. The game flow, other than this spot here, there's no real mid, and getting to it is rough. As you can see, there's a lot of tunnels, a lot of back rooms. You see this room here just ends up, you can get to the mid, but if you don't know where you're going, you end up in, what is it, a cave? Just these back tunnels. A boost up here to get you back over towards the mid, but even then, where am I going? Oh, I can't get back up there. If you had dash, then you probably could, but here I am trying to get over. There's a chicken I just heard, but and I'm finally back. And then say you die, you get shot, and you spawn back. Hello, chicken. You spawn back here. All right. I go back out, and I'm just gonna decide to go this direction, and then here I am, just a lot of, as a player who knows where I'm going, maybe it's good for me, but if I end up here and I'm in a lobby full of people who have never played Quake before, that sucks. You're gonna be sitting here waiting for everybody. Or just standing here and watching them come in, and as you kill them, it's a miserable spot. Game flow wise, I don't understand why. Hello, bunnies. I don't understand why this was pushed through like this. This is, especially at the time where like maps like Sunken were being like pushed out. Like this, like those maps are so much better than anything that old ancient could ever be. And we'll actually go to ancient version 2 and kind of see how that looks as it is currently. And here we are in today's ancient, which I feel just sort of building wise, texture wise, still don't like granite. It's still more natural in the walls, I feel. Less of that polished granite everywhere, except for in these pillars and some of the buildings up there. They kept the cathedral theme, which I think was a really good idea. And they even kept the original cathedral. They actually just put it up here instead. So that's a nice homage to what it originally was. Yeah, so this is the original ancient, cathedral. So it's just sitting up here watching over us as we play. They kept the sort of jungle acacias. They kept the natural formations. But now into the game flow, it actually has a proper mid. Less tunnels. There are still like a lot of tunnels, I feel, that can get you lost. Not as much as it did have, and not as much as the worst maps that you could be playing. You'll always usually end up back at the mid. But stuff like this, where I don't feel like this back area is really that necessary. Though it does help keep you protected while you're spawning, so you don't just instantly die when you spawn in. So that's always nice. But as you see, like, you can always end up back here at mid. So there's always a mid point to get to, which is what every great Quake map has. Really can't go wrong with this map. If this was old ancient, I would have absolutely, I would have skipped this, and as many people would do. I did not like the original ancient. I really like this new ancient. Never am I skipping this map. And let's go to the tier list. I think ancient, in its current form, is a very good map. I think the games you can have with this ancient, this new ancient is as close as you can get, especially with like an Apex. I think Apex gives you those like great games that are just always, you know, sort of down to the bitter end. I think Ancient also gives you that feeling. Old Ancient definitely goes into the should be removed, so much so that it did, and they made a new one. So there we go with that. So we're gonna go to the next map. All right, and here we are on the next map. This is Cold War. Out the gate, starting with the block palette, is a very, very simple block palette. It's mostly 2 blocks. It's mostly quartz, and it's sort of like chiseled, and what is this? Pillar quartz, regular ice, not packed ice. This map was made before packed ice. I'm pretty sure. Though I could be messing that up. And then the occasional birch log, as little accents kind of all over around the map. I really like this block palette, so much so that I did make a Quake Duels for the newest version of Minecraft pack. I made a Quake Duels pack that took this sort of ice, quartz, and birch block palette and made it into a sort of pseudo white pack. I do really like this map. Going into the flow, I think this map is a lot of fun. I think this map sort of is one of few maps that kind of takes the idea of a midpoint and sort of stretches it out between 2 spots. Obviously, we have this spot here, which is a great spot for if you'd like to camp. You can go over there. I don't recommend it. You could just stand up there, or you can just kind of stand there, whatever you feel like. I don't think it'll get you very far, but you absolutely can. Sort of this middle point here exists, and then we have the hallway, which can, you know, have some fun interactions, and then the other middle point would kind of be this area here, sort of seeping into this area here. There's not really a true mid in this spot. A lot of people will tell you it's either that over there, or it's the other one over there. I think personally it's sort of spread out. There's not really one spot that gets into that really gets to be the number 1 mid. I think probably if I were to absolutely pick one, probably this spot here, seeping into the hallway here. But there are, as much as I love this map, there are flaws. More specifically, just this entire back area. This entire back area sort of kills the flow. I don't know what they would do. I don't think they should, if they were to, you know, sort of renovate it and make it a version 2 of this map, I don't think that they should ever like cut it off, but maybe revamp it, because no one uses this back area here. You can spawn there, and you can kind of run off and go over there, or, you know, for some reason go down there. This spot here, I know hardly anyone uses. Some people do. To come out here, and then this outside area here is pretty, you know, it's a lot of people only come in here once you spawn downstairs, and then you come up and, you know, kind of come out here to try and get anybody. But it does not, it's not these outside areas, other than those spaces I had already talked about. Sorry. Those spaces that I had already talked about, you know, here, this, up there, the hallway, and then the other side here, it gets really slow once you get outside of these spots. I mean, especially this. I rarely see anybody come through here unless, you know, you fall through here, or you end up, you know, jumping across and crawling up to come out and do whatever here. But at that point, you're losing so many kills. It's almost not worth it. Never is. I think when it comes to game flow, you kind of but you kind of go back to what the palette is made out of, and what I've been just, you know, casually doing without even thinking really, is the ice. I think the ice is important to the game flow. These games can go by very fast, just because if you got someone here and you end up going here, someone's there, someone's there, someone's there, someone's there, and then you just go route back around, get someone there, get someone there, get someone there. You know, these games can go really, really fast just because you're on ice, and with the speed too, it's crazy. You're going absolutely wacko with the speed. I think overall this map is probably my personal favorite. I would never skip this map in a million days. I would almost force everyone to play it with me. I love this map so much. Gets a lot of unnecessary hate in my opinion. A lot of probably bad memories because back when you could lag back, it was definitely a big problem. I still loved it though. I could never hate on my favorite map here. But going to the tier list, I will say I'm not gonna do. In my heart, this is a god tier map. I would never have it any other way. I love this map so much. But for the sake of everyone's sanity, I will put it as a very good map. It is a very, very good map in my opinion. I think the flow is just so much fun, especially when you get a lobby full of people that are just absolutely cracked at this game. I think you can't go wrong with this map. I feel like a lot more people should give it a lot more, give it more of a chance. But that's that, and let's go to the next map. And here we are at the next map. That map being Demonic. Block palette. I think this map is very good. I think it's very unique in what blocks it uses. I don't think there's any other map that actually uses any of these blocks besides the stone brick here. It actually has open fire, which you can just catch yourself on fire with, which is a lot of fun. And honestly, the colors are nice, and I think that's pretty much everything you got for me with the block palette. It's pretty simple, but I think it's a a good use of the colors here. And going into game flow, I think the game flow is very, very good. Actually, I think there's only a few gripes I have with it, and we'll get to those in a minute. But I feel like from wherever you spawn, you always end up getting to the mid, which is just basically this giant hallway. Another one of those mids that sort of stretches out over a long span of spots instead of just being one big old circle. I think these stairs are a lot of fun. Kind of messes with a lot of people if you can just sort of circle them and just do crazy stuff with them. And yeah, from wherever you spawn, you just end up in the mid, and I think that keeps the game flow from being sluggish, especially with there being so many tunnels in the outside here. Like these tunnels here, they can be pretty annoying, but they end up circling right back to the mid, and that's all you really need. This spot here can be, pretty useful. People use it to, juke you out, make you mess up. And this also just leads back straight to the mid. My few gripes are probably these stairs. I think these stairs are pretty annoying. I get it. We have to be able to get up into this top area here, but these stairs take time. And honestly, I don't even know many people using this staircase. I barely use it myself. This back hallway, pretty darn useless, in my opinion. Gets people caught back here. These stairs are fine. My biggest problem is this back area here. This is a well-known camping spot. It's very good. I hate to admit, but if you just want to keep getting kills, just sit back here and just start shooting and use this as like a protective piece over here. This kind of ruins. I mean, not the game flow. The game progresses, but you lose a lot of fun by using this spot here. I do wish that this spot never really became such a popular spot for camping. But I can't really knock it because it is just there. Plus, if you're good enough, or just you know where you're looking, just shoot there and you'll be fine. You'll get the guy. But yeah, I think Demonic overall makes me feel pretty happy. I think the games I've played on this map are some of the, I think they're some of the best. They get, I think this map more than any, at least as I'm thinking about them right now, gets me the most, you know, sort of heart racing. You know, my heart starts racing if I'm playing in a pretty decent lobby and I'm trying to win. You know, it comes down to the wire, really. I can remember quite a many time where I am playing this map and I am just fighting for my life to try and get some sort of kill while someone is just creeping up on me to take the win. It's a fun map. I really enjoy it. So let's go to the tier list. I think this map is a god tier map. I think this map, other than that camping spot, you really, I mean, I don't want to sound harsh, but you can really deal with the people that are camping there pretty easy because they have to get back there. There's no like back way into that camping spot without being seen. So with there being so many people in the mid, like you just can't let them get back there. You know, force them to play your game. I really like Demonic. I think Demonic flows real nice outside of that obvious gripe I have. The mid is easy to get to. Everyone can get there. It becomes probably one of the most fun maps you can have. It gives you that Apex 2 feel, right? Everyone's getting to the mid. It's not as chaotic as Apex 3, but it gets you that, like, everyone's there at all times. You know, you're just trying to aim and shoot. You know, aim and shoot. There's no way I'd ever skip this map. And I think we're getting to a point now where you can kind of see where I'm a pretty generous guy. I think we'll get into some maps soon that are pretty bad. So let's go to the next map. And here we are at the next map. This is Dig Site. This is the Dig Site 1. There is a Dig Site 2, which we'll get to next. Block palette wise, I think it's a very good map. I think my only gripes color wise are these dirt pieces at the bottom. I feel like if it was mostly dirt, I feel like it would look all right, but maybe I'm just going crazy over here. I just think there's just something off with this floor here. Just from the top it looks odd, from the bottom down here you don't really notice it. So maybe I'm just talking crazy right now. But other than the block palette, I love the use of the wood here. You know, sort of like scaffolding. These big stone structures are very nice to look at. And then, you know, one thing here, I wish that they had maybe foresight. I don't really know, but building this into a dome instead of sort of making it to look like a, you know, sort of like a quarry is one missed opportunity. I maybe they just didn't have the time or the resources, or maybe they just didn't think about it. But this dome, I mean, it's pretty lifeless here. I would have definitely tried to make this taller and, you know, make it look like a quarry, like the inside of a quarry. I would have loved that, but, you know, it's an old map. You know, map design was different back then. And, you know, sort of going into that, map design being so different, game flow. I think this middle spot right here, this mid, is a very good mid. I think once you get inside of it and you just start looking around, people come out and you're just trying to stop them, you know, from shooting you as fast as you can. I think this perspective of this map is the best part about it. Then the rest of it sort of happens. This map is probably like the biggest, like, I don't know what to say here, like not red flag, but biggest indicator. Here we go. Biggest indicator that these maps were not made with, you know, sort of modern movement in mind, or hell, even the game in mind, because we still had speed 2 when this map was made. So what am I supposed to do here? What's this meant for? I'm supposed to run through that thing, and that's supposed to be fast for me? I have to run on this one block platform to get through here? Like, that's crazy. And don't even get me started on these towers. Oh my goodness. Like this is these towers stop game flow. This is you get stuck here, you've got to figure a way out and get back to the middle. These side pieces here, as much as they are, like this one's not that bad. This one's not that bad. This gets you back out. But these two towers, you know, from the opposite sides of the map from each other, slow the game down hard. If you're trying to get back to the top where you can see somebody, like you have to go through this, you have to squeeze through that, you have to either go through here and end up back out into the main area, or you have to go out into this area which leads you back into the back of the map, and then you have to end up getting back over into the mid. It's a rough piece of work, I'll give you that. Like, as much as I enjoy playing this map, these back sides are really the worst part about this map. And it really, you know, sort of hampers my decision on where this goes on our tier list here. Speaking of tier list, oh wait, hold on, let's not get there first. I would say overall I like the map, but I do have my fair share of problems with it, as probably many people do. It's also known as a, you know, big camping map because you can just sit up here, and if no one looks up at you, you're basically getting free kills no matter what. Easy with randoms in the lobby, or even if you just sit back here, you're gonna sit back here and you get a very similar experience that you do with demonic, where you can just sit back here and just kind of go crazy. You get a perfect view of everything. Yeah, so let's go to the tier list. I think, where is it? Dig site. Where's dig site? There it is. Dig site. I'm gonna have to put it in the meh tier. Meh only because, and let's go back to the map here. I think this spot, arguably one of the better spots in Quakecraft for sure. I think you get to this mid, everything becomes like, this becomes a top tier map. But you get lost in these backsides. It sucks. This is not a fun map to be in. You get stuck down here. You wish you were dead already. You wish the game was over. And coming out of here, like you're screwed if someone looks down your way. So that's all I would do. That's all I would say about this map. It goes in the meh tier. I don't think there's many people who would complain about that ranking. So let's move on to the next map. Moving on to the next map, we have Dig Site 2. I think the palette of Dig Site 2 uses what regular Dig Site had, and just amps it up a ton. I think because it uses the same block palettes, right? There's less dirt everywhere, and it actually does what I said they should have done for the first one, and make it like an actual quarry, you know, like we're deep into the ground. It sucks that this has to be just the second one, and they just couldn't revamp the first one, but it really is a much better looking map, and a better use of the, like I just said, like a better use of the textures, plus these added things here. These added little like ore just like glowing off into the side, just sitting up there. You know, they're not in your face. They're not super like, they don't make it like super you know, distracting or anything like that. But it's very nice. I like it. Going into, you know, map design and game flow. Oh my god, that's pretty. I think this map is really good. I think it is. I think you end up getting to the mid a lot sooner than you would in a lot of other maps, even more so than like the demonic. I think every spawn you spawn in, you end up going to the mid. Like you can spawn down here, you can end up here. I do think this back area here kind of is a little useless in my opinion. I mean, it's good to go down here and like sort of dodge, you know, hide and shit like that. Sorry for the swear. But it's I think the flow ends up being very good. No matter where you are in this map. I don't think there's many spots in this map where it's like, oh, I'm slogging to get my way back to the mid, or I'm stuck in this back room or alley trying to leave and get out. There's always a really quick way back, which is I think the best part about this map. Um, one thing I will say that I think we'll start to see in a couple maps, and maybe I'm just crazy here, but I feel like even though it is a very good map, it kind of, I feel like, leaves a little bit to be desired in some ways. I feel like the mid is pretty boring. It becomes just a little too big. And this isn't just me nitpicking. This is how I genuinely feel about this map, where it's like there is not a lot to use here. It feels like there's just kind of one direction I end up getting to, and I end up getting here, looking around and dying. And then like this spot here, I don't know if anyone uses this. I don't know if anyone goes up here at all. So it's kind of like a waste of a space. Like that verticality that you'd like to have in a map like this, I feel is just not really used that much. So it ends up kind of staying on these lower levels down here. I feel like majority of people are coming through these side spots. Rarely do I see a lot of people up here, or up there at all. So I think that will drop it down for me from being a, and let's go to the tier list here. I think that sort of, like, I don't know, sort of boringness of that map kind of drops it down to just being a good map. Sure, the mid is very, very good, and I honestly can't say I wouldn't want anything less, in terms of like how crazy it can be. But on the flip side, it's also just a very boring mid, very maybe too open, I think it ends up becoming just a little too chaotic, very similar to Apex 3. That verticality just goes away, and you kind of miss out on it. So, but as I said before, I love that they made it an actual like quarry, and in fact, just as a little fun side piece. Let's see what it looks like at the top here. I don't think I've ever been up here, which is actually kind of crazy. So there's some stained glass up here, orange stained glass. Just kind of want to take a look at the outside. Just kind of a little side quest for us. And it's a giant box. I mean, that's to be expected. What's this? Giant hole. And there's a piston. Oh. Oh. Okay. That's interesting. I didn't think that would take me all the way back here. Okay, well, on to the next map. And here we are in... Okay, just making sure. And here we are in Farah. I'm not sure if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, but that's how I pronounce it, Farah. This map, I feel, is a very... I think it's very unique. Obviously, I mean, it's the only map that uses this much sandstone for sure, and a lot of birch planks, and the occasional blue wool as a sort of accent, as you can see here, there, all that jazz. And I think the map is a very good looking map. You have these very like I don't want to make it one thing, but very Taj Mahal-esque looking architecture, mosque even, and then these just like really cool structures on the outside. It looks almost like a fortress in like a Middle Eastern city or a Middle Eastern desert. So it's super far out. architecture wise, sort of the interior, I think it is a very pretty map. I think it's very unique in design, obviously, but even in just like general Minecraft builds, I think it looks very cool. I think it's a very interesting. It's just always something to look at in this map. I like the little subtle accents of blue with the lamps. The torches always being around. It's always light. I was gonna keep this in the nighttime because that's what it was when I spawned here. But I might as well just keep it going with the daytime. But yeah, I think it's a really pretty map. And that's about all the good things I could say about this map. It is when it comes to game flow, as bad as it gets. I'm pretty sure it's as bad as it gets. At least in the modern era with dash and all that. These corridors are just too small, and there are too many places to get lost. This top area here, so like from here, from there to here, to here to like here, there, up there, it's just there's so many spots that are just dead air that there is no reason to be in this hallway here. For what reason you're in here, I don't know. Because the midpoint ends up kind of being this hallway. Everything from like downstairs in this sort of side of the map ends up here, and there's the most spawns, so most people end up coming up here, and then like spawning up here, jumping down, spawning here, looking in this way. But this side spot here, this side spot up here, these are just, it's empty spots. And then, as I said just a minute ago, these corridors are just too small. It's like a maze. Maybe that was on purpose, but nowadays we want larger doorways and hallways, places to dash, places to, just kind of run around. This place, there's too many obstacles that are in your way, causing a lot of problems. These fences especially, like this, that's rough. I have, and I will, I don't do it as much as I used to, but skip this map. It's very common to do so. I wouldn't blame you for it. That's for sure. Yeah, so that's pretty much all about Far. It's not a great map. So let's get the tier list up. I think Far is a bad map, and it sucks because it has the same problems that Dig Site has, except it's kind of all over the map. You can have a bad mid or a decent mid. Like this hallway is not that bad. There are just a lot of problems with it. I mean, you can come up here and that's not that bad, but once you're over here, this becomes I'm pretty sure you have to jump shot. Like if you're coming up here and you want to shoot as fast as you can, you have to like jump, and then coming up here, you just have to jump off there. Like going up there is almost, there's no reason to, like you're just wasting time. And then why you'd ever go into this hallway down here instead is just beyond me. This is just, now you're lost. Now you're lost, and here we are. It's a bit crazy. Maybe you can subvert expectations by, going that route. I'm just not certain it's going to work out for you in the end. So that's Farah. Let's get to the next map. And here we are in Forgotten. And I'll be completely honest with you, I forget that this map even exists a lot of the time, which is kind of saying something. I think the block palette is actually pretty nice. It's very classic. It reminds me of of a lot of old Hypixel lobbies. They all had this sort of like wood, this oak, the stone brick, the cobblestone with the fences. Like it's a very Like if you look at like a lot of old Hypixel lobbies, especially like the main lobby, this was like a common thing. At least from what I remember. I may be completely wrong there, but I'm pretty sure that's what it looked like. It's not a bad block palette, like I said, but I think the build of the map is pretty boring. It's just a giant cube. It does have 3 layers of verticality, which I do like. It's just a lot of that 3rd layer isn't very useful. I mean, I think most people are jumping off just to at least be at the bottom layer, if not the 2nd layer. This bottom layer gets the most action. This mid gets the most action. But it is just a boring layout, I feel. Like it's some hallways that lead, like 4 main hallways that lead into the mid, and that's about it. I think flow, it's all right at that. It doesn't, like, I think most spawns can get you there. Like you can spawn up here, end up jumping down in the mid. You can spawn over here in this corner and end up going into the mid. I feel like you do spend a lot of time, especially if you spawn up there, you spend a lot of your time in that hallway just trying to pre-fire anybody coming out of here, or anyone trying to pre-fire you out here. It's a bit rough. I feel like that spawn probably sucks the most. You have your higher chance of dying that way. I believe there's a spawn over here. Yeah, I think you spawn over here. This one kind of sucks. It's just like natural to jump off. Like you're not using these back portions. I know there's a spawn. Where is it? There's a spawn over here somewhere. That is just not fun. Yeah, up here. This spawn here. I mean, this gets you outside, or if you get down here, these stairs are, in my opinion, I feel whenever I'm on these stairs, they kill my momentum every single time. No one's ever here, or if they are, I kill them, or if I don't, I get shot. I lose that interaction. I end up and I have to do the hallway thing, and the hallway thing is just kind of annoying. People, it's simple, but people camp in this corner here. It's pretty annoying. It's not great. I feel like the game flow, it's easy to get to mid in a lot of spots, a good portion of spots, but a lot of things are also just in the way, that causes just, it's hard to, it's for me, it's hard to explain why, like, just this layout is it's so boring that it actually affects the sort of game flow. Like, you can get to mid, it can be there are some good games I know you can have. I just think that generally I feel like I don't have a very good time. I feel like the game slows down in certain spots. Let's get to the tier list. Forgotten, and just based off my opinion here, and I don't think any map should be removed. Any current map should be removed. I think that's a crazy thing to say. So I'm going to put Forgotten in the bad tier with Pharah. I think it suffers from not a ton of the same issues. I think they're different in their own rights. Decent mids, like I said, they both share that. Decent mids. I just think the way to get there is just not fun. Not fun, and it slows the game down. I think they both share that. Let's go to the next map. Alright, and here we are in, pardon my pronunciation, Frist. It is another ice map, but I feel maybe they just felt that Cold War was enough with the full map made of ice, so they decided to use it as more of a accent in certain spots. So there's a lot more snow and quartz than there is ice on the ground. I like the palette. It's very similar to Cold War. So it has the ice, it has the quartz, it doesn't have the birch, but it does have the new packed ice back when this was made. It has more snow than anything. And it also adds these beacons here as the light source and all this glass here. Overall, can't complain about the texture. I like the texture a lot. I also like these sort of big halls, like the hallways that lead into these larger, like bigger rooms here. I like the verticality in some rooms while also not having it in others. Like I like this. I like this platform a lot. This platform is very good as well. I like, these hallways are very pretty. That's for sure. I like how pretty this map is. That is probably my favorite part about it. It kind of takes what Cold War did and just kind of amps it up a notch. I know internally for a little bit this was called Cold War 2. I don't think it deserves that name because it is a lot different. So much so, what the heck? Okay, we're just gonna fix that. I think when it comes to game flow, it's not bad. I think some of these newer maps when they were released, I think they all suffer from a lot of the same issues. These mids are not bad. I think this one is definitely better than Forgotten and Farah and Dig Site. But it's like it's nice. This part is probably the best part of the map for sure. This mid is sort of like a big L, right? This like sort of like L shape here. And like this verticality here, you always spawn somewhere where you can just end up here, It's always non-stop action. It's just like you end up in this hallway and you're just wasting time, it slows the game down. You end up in this stairway. You're in this stairway for a good portion of time, you can try and find your way out. That'll get you out. Where does this one take you? This one takes you above here and into the mid. There you go. But like this back room here, like unless you're dropping down from there, or you end up in this back hallway. You're slowing the game down for not only yourself but everyone else. And more ice is melted. Just gonna replace that. There we go. That's what I get for downloading these maps. Yeah, but this part here, I'm not entirely certain I have been in this part, but it's just these parts are just so it's honestly baffling. Like you're in this hallway, for the long haul. You're not getting out of it until you eventually end up here, and even then you're dead immediately if someone sees you. It's a waste of time. It's these hallways, these back hallways, they ruin the game flow. Like if you spawn back here and maybe you don't know what you're doing, you end up going through the motions of just like, well, I guess I'll just end up here, let's see where this takes me, and it's just not a great spot to be in, unless you know where to go and you're just running towards the mid because you know what you're looking for. It's a bad spot to be in. I would never want to catch myself in these hallways, and for that, going to the tier list, I think Frist is a man map. I don't think it's very. I think it has the mids of. A Dig Site 2 and an Apex 3, but it suffers from the same problems that maybe Dig Site has. You get stuck in these back hallways, and especially some of these back ones over here. These back hallways over here are atrocious. If I got caught in these, I would just forfeit the game. I wouldn't, because I don't leave games, but it's just. This is a bad hallway. This is a bad enough hallway to cause problems. And then similar on the other side, you get stuck here. It'll ruin your game. Some people don't like the ice. I like the ice, and this is just my personal opinion. But I can see how people don't like the ice. Yeah, you get stuck in these hallways. It's rough. It's rough. You got to get back to the mid. On the bright side, though, just real quick before we move on to the next map, I really do, and I forgot to mention, I just remembered it now, I like this. They use these cobwebs to look like snowflakes, which I think is really, really cool. So that's always a really cool positive. I really enjoy that. That's really nice. All right, on to the next map. And here we go with another map. This is going to be another two-parter because somehow, whoever got these maps together has the original version of Hustwood. It's kind of nostalgic looking back on this because I haven't seen the original version of Hustwood in a very, very long time. I almost forget what it looks like. But a keen eye will see that this spawn point here looks very similar. And that door that's usually there, that's gone. So we're gonna explore this map together, and I'll kind of go over why this map, I believe, had to get renovated. As you can see already, this is a small space. These doorways are very, very tight. This map was not made with dashing in mind, for sure. Here we are at a sort of midpoint here. We're gonna go up those stairs just to see what everything's about. Where does this take us? I think this takes us to the mid, I believe. Yeah, so it does. And I heard a pig. But yeah, so these hallways are, or were, very, very tight. And it was almost like a maze. You are getting stuck in here no matter what. This is a rough. Hello, Mr. Pig, or Mrs. Pig, whichever one. This is a rough map. This is a map that would take you forever to find someone. If this was like a 4-player map and it started with 4 players, this is gonna take you a long time. I forget the spawns, so we're just gonna move on to the next version of this and sort of piece together what they did, what they changed, and kind of see how we'd rank that version of this map. This was just kind of a nice stroll through memory lane. I haven't seen this map in a long time. It's actually pretty cool. Alright, and here we are at Hustwood as we know it today. It's got the doorway here, very similar bones. Hustwood kind of tries to make up for those obnoxious hallways by just cutting away everything that was stopping you from getting there, making these doorways a lot bigger than they were, which is so much better. You know, it does still kind of suck with these back hallways. Even if you're in a 4-player map, a 4-player match, it will not be fun. I'm just gonna be that straight up with that. It is not a fun map to be with less than the required amount, or less than the maximum amount. I think with 8 players, because I believe this is an 8-player map. I forget off the top of my head. Without 8 players, it's pretty much the most boring thing I've ever played. These back hallways are still bad. Like these back hallways, if someone who doesn't play the game gets back here, it'll ruin the flow for sure. And I know I skipped the block palette and went straight to the flow and design of the map. It's enough to really make you not want to play it. Of course, I do think the jungle aspect of it is very cool. I think it's unique-ish. The sort of lost temple sort of feel to it is really, really cool. I think a map we're going to look at later, I feel, does this sort of aesthetic. I mean, not with the jungle. I mean, these jungle wood trees are very interesting and unique in their own right. I do think I'd prefer something else, though. I'm not a huge fan of this. I am going to the tier list here, I am going to put current Hustwood in bad and previous Hustwood in should be removed. But we're only doing current maps here. I'm going to put Hustwood in the bad tier. So let's go to the next map. New map, finally. Here we are in Karunesh. Block palette wise, I think it's a very avant sort of, block palette. This sort of prismarine with the gray, I believe it's gray concrete, terracotta, and the stone with the, I believe this is dark oak, spruce, and this just straight up dirt on the ground. it's very, very unique. It doesn't really feel like a real terrain you'd ever see anywhere. Like I'm at least I'm certain I've never seen anything like it. But I like it actually. I think the sort of cool blue kind of comes through. I think all the colors mesh really well, even the greens. I really like this block palette, and I like the map itself. I don't know exactly what it is. It feels almost like a alien sort of like landscape, but I think it looks really good. I think it flows real nice into each other in terms of like what the map is supposed to be. Um, and then the brown. I forgot the brown. Yeah, the brown at the top here. The coal accents. It's just an overall pleasing to the eye sort of map. I think I try to figure something else with that dirt. I think I'm just not a big fan of dirt as a block. Seeing as I didn't really like the way a lot of what Dig Site had to offer because of that dirt at the bottom. But honestly, you're not really looking at the dirt, so I really don't mind it. And it plays off pretty well over here. Looking at it, like sort of bottom and this, it just kind of melds really well. I think it's a nice. If you were to blur that section of the map, I think it would look pretty good. Going in the flow, I think this map has a really good flow. I don't think you can get caught in too many places that'll like slow the game down overall. I think most spawns get you to this center point here, the obvious mid. I think this back hallway can get you a little stuck. It'll take you a little bit to get back, but it's not really that big of a deal. Probably the worst of it comes in this back spot here. This spot here gets you caught for a little while, but it eventually comes back. And if you get shot and you get stuck back there, you'll end up back in the middle as soon as possible. I think this is going to be a quick one. I mean, I feel like it's a very commonplace map. I think it's got a very good flow. I do wish these spots here, like this spot wasn't used so much, or not used so much, but it's used as like a spot where people just sit and wait. People will just sit down there and try to camp a little bit. I don't think enough people use this top part here. I think this is a very good spot. I think it helps with the verticality of the map. I wish there was more vertical spots other than I'm more of this height. I like a good vertical map. But other than that, I think it flows real nice. I think all the action happens in this spot here in the Karanesh. I do think there also could be like a secondary point in this little hub here. I think there can be a lot of action here. And yeah, so I mean, I feel like I've said a lot about my points here on this map. So let's go to the tier list. All right, tier list. I will put Karanesh in the very good tier. I think it gives you a good mid. I think all roads lead to not Rome but to the mid. I think it gives you everything you want in a very good Quake map. So I know this one was quicker than some of the other ones, but let's get to the next map. And here we are in Lost World. Block palette wise, very simple. It is mostly stone, gold block accents, and then glowstone accents as well. Some mossy cobble when you get up top, like that point right there, and some of this part over this wall here, but that's pretty much it. It's all stone, cobblestone, or just stone bricks in general. Very simple block palette. I do think it's very good. It's a very neutral tone, doesn't distract you much, and I think that it's a very, very just simple, easy to sort of look block palette. I think the building itself, I like this sort of ruinous sort of, I don't even know what it is, just structure in general. I think it looks really nice. I think no matter what spot you look, I think it just looks good no matter where you are. And yeah, I think that's how I feel about how it looks. Going into game flow, I think this has to be one of the best maps in terms of where you spawn and where you're going. if you spawn in this map, you are destined to get to this mid here. This is where you end up. You spawn up here, even up here in this high third, like, or fourth floor, whatever it is. You're coming down to this mid, right? You're up here, you're looking down at the mid. You're spawning up here, you're jumping down into this mid here. You're standing here trying to get everyone who's trying to kill you. It is, in terms of game flow, probably the best in terms of, yeah, the game flow is just amazing on this map. You're always going to end up here. The action is always here. You really can't do wrong with this map. I would never skip this map, and if anyone says they skip this map, they're probably crazy. They're probably just insane. This one's really simple. I mean, palette-wise, it is simple. You know, structure-wise, it is simple. I think there are a couple things, some gripes I have. This back corner kind of sucks. Sure, it's fast. I mean, you can still end up looking down there. Like, it doesn't really get as bad. Like, it doesn't really get as bad as some of these other maps. Some of these maps with these, like, back hallways that just take forever. Maybe if you start over here in this stairwell here, but even then, you can always end up back here. It's just so easy to get back to the action. Yeah, that was fast. But getting back to it, I think Lost World is our third god tier map. Just me personally, I think it just satiates a way of playing that is just my favorite way of playing and keeps the game lasting. If I only had to play on Demonic, Apex 2, and Lost World, I'd be all right. They're such great maps. This map specifically, I believe, is in a very good spot in a lot of people's hearts, and that's why it's in god tier. So let's go to the next map. And here we are in Martian, and those astute players that have been around for a little while probably recognize this as the original Martian. So we're just going to go through this, and then we'll hit Martian V2 just to kind of give our updated look at it. I personally don't mind this map. I didn't mind the change. I also don't mind its old version. I think personally it's a very cool looking map. I think the colors are really nice. The outside atmosphere of being like in a domed on Mars or something like that, on another planet, is a pretty cool aesthetic. It looks really cool with these like lights, different colored lights all over the map here. Like this one's green. Though you'd only see this with shaders, you just see the red every once in a while. And then these like lines, sort of like hard, jagged lines, trying to, you know, give it the more futuristic look. I personally really dig it. I like this centerpiece here. I think this is really cool. Gives you a nice vantage point. Going into game flow, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't remember what game flow is like on this map, but looking at it, I remember a couple things, and this will probably hit some of the points on the new Martian. I can see how this is kind of annoying. This just sort of big thing just stopping you from seeing anybody that's on the other side of where you are. Sure, there's enough people, and it can make it, you know, decent. You know, enough people around can stop something like that from happening. But if it is playing at a minimum player count, then it can be pretty annoying. I do remember this part back here just kind of being slow. You end up back here, you're just trying to get your way out of here, get yourself back into the action over here. But yeah, I'll be honest with the game flow. I can't really give you that. It's been so long since I actually played on the original Martian. But yeah, I think it looks good, and I could see there being problems with stuff like that. This big old structure in the center here, and then even some spots in that back corner right there. So let's go to Martian V2 and kind of get my real thoughts on how I feel about the map. And here we are in Martian version 2. Basically, it's the same layout. Only thing it did was basically, if you remember that big space in the center, it basically took that, cut it, and then smashed the other half into this side here. So basically, it gives you a more clear, defined middle point of the map it's definitely this hallway and this area right here. Just this big whole room is kind of the midpoint, and it basically makes it a lot easier to get from, if say you spawn in spots like over here or over there, you're able to get right back in to this action spot right here. Still with this back hallway, when I spawn back here, I still don't particularly enjoy it. You know, spawning right here, it gets you back in, but I just don't like being out here. Just trying to fly back into this spot here, it's just, it's annoying for me. Same thing with this back hallway, and this is just me personally. I just don't like this back hallway here. I think it takes too much time to get out into this area and then back into it, but that's just me personally. I'm glad that they removed the giant monolith in the center. You know, that could absolutely be very, very annoying, so it makes sense why they'd remove that. I think game flow on this map is actually very good. I think the old Martian V2 V1 was a bit annoying. I think this one really just takes what was there and cuts the fat, and really makes this a pretty fun map to be on. Going to the tier list here, I think Martian is a very good map. I would have probably rated V2 as just a good map, or maybe even a meh map. I do think Martian, regular as it is now, fits this sort of get into the action, Karunesh, Cold War, Ancient, Apex mold that these maps sort of provide, making the experience just so much more fun, action-packed, and fast. Because that's all we need. That's all we want, right? So I think that's enough for Martian. Let's move on to the next map. And here we are in Mines. And I think Mines is a very good looking map. And as you know, going as we've done so far, this is the original Mines. If you've played on the new Mines, you can see that there's not too much different, especially with this middle part here. This part really isn't changed at all. I think it actually isn't changed at all. I think it's a very good looking map. I love it just being a regular plain old mines, like a mine where you'd see like ore everywhere, you know, lights kind of hanging from the ceiling. This is probably the part here that a good portion of people probably have not seen before. Like this just giant thing in the way. There's just rocks everywhere, you know, things that are just in the way. As you'll see in the next map, this stuff has kind of changed a little bit. I'm pretty sure this giant drill is gone. So just before I get into my ranking, because it's not going to change that much just on how I think of the map, we are going to move to the next map. This is just kind of a nice little view of what it looked like beforehand. So let's get into the Mines V2. And in Mines 2, or Mines V2, as you already, just a much bigger accounting for, you know, dash and how players move. Yeah, so the drill actually just moved up. But yeah, these spaces are just so much bigger now. You know, less trying to hobble around little pieces of blocks just kind of getting in the way. Sort of expanding the hallways, keeping some of these, you know, in a very similar, like, cramped fashion. Removing whatever was on the outside of this, so that getting through this hole or this hall right here is much more enjoyable, much faster. Getting to the action. As you'd probably guess, this is the mid right here. This area right here is where all the action is. Though there can be some pretty good stuff happening over on this side here. It is, I think, a very good looking map. I think it's even better looking. If you're just looking for detail, definitely Mines 1. But I think just overall, for an eye of what a map is supposed to look like, this is a huge change, and this is awesome right here. I love that they got rid of that evil spot right here and just put stairs. Makes it so much more enjoyable. Looking for just an eye of like what a good map looks like, I think this is a very good map. In terms of game flow, I think it's not hard. It does get a little tricky with these back halls back here. You can get stuck in them, but I mean, like I said, it's much more open, right? You can see what's going on over there and just figure it out. I like it personally. I do think I do have a tough time getting back to the mid. I think the mid is definitely that area over there. Is definitely where you want to be. So when you spawn all the way over here and you want to go back, you can either go that way or that way. It's still gonna take you a long time to get back. Um, though you'll always find someone trying to get here as well. And then just the gameplay in this mid center here is just chaos. It really is chaos incarnate. There's like I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places for someone to enter, and someone's usually sitting there. So like I jump into the center and I'm just staring at everybody trying to get them, stopping them from getting in here. Whether that works or not is my thing to bear. But it is a really fun map and game flow is very good. Going to the tier list, I think Mines View 1 is arguably a bad map. I think it's really, really bad. It looks good, but it's tough to deal with. I think Mines V2, making it more open, is a good map. I think it gives you exactly what you're looking for. There are still a couple struggle points getting back to that middle spot, just like what Dig Site 2 deals with, sort of. But it all leads back to the mid, and I think it's a pretty enjoyable map. Not as enjoyable as these top ones up here, though. So let's go to the next map. All right, and here we are in Zero. Zero, I think visually is one of my favorite maps. I think it takes that sort of idea of what Hustwood was going for, of like the abandoned sort of temple, and I think it hits it out of the park. I really like it. It's more temple focused. It makes do with the stone, the mossy cobble, the stone bricks, and then adds accents of the jungle trees and stuff like that, while also having sort of these like really cool looking fire pillars as well. I think these are really nice, cool additions. And there's other fire spots everywhere else as well. I think that this is like my favorite looking map, and I think it does the, like I said, it does the thing that Husk was trying to do just better. Instead of being more tree than temple, it's more temple than tree, and I guess I just personally like that a lot more. Going into game flow, this map is, I think, the best. Not the best, sorry. I think the mid's really fun. I really like the mid. There are a few gripes with just the mid already. Those rocks, I hate these rocks. These rocks cause me a lot of problems. Running from this spot here, say I'm running in, I go over here and I fall into a rock spot. I have to jump over some rocks to get over to here, or try to juke someone out. I get stuck on a rock. These rocks are miserable. They add a nice little element to it, but like visually they look nice, but I don't like how they play. And then these stairs back here are popular spots for people to just kind of sit and watch and wait. They're also pretty annoying to get out of once you are like trying to get back into the action. That's my only problem with the mid. So like with this here, up here, I think this map uses verticality pretty well. It has a big launch spot up here, which is really fun. Just to kind of launch off, and you're just like looking for people to shoot while you're mid-air, and then you get back into it and just go crazy. Very fun mid, and that's about where all the good things go. Because as you're looking at here, there are a lot of back tunnels. These back tunnels are, I think, the worst. They are just so long, and you can get lost in them easy. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're stuck back here easy, and you probably wouldn't win the round. And so I think like these tunnels are the reason why this map's not going into good. As much as I enjoy it, I know where I'm going. But for anyone who is new or has never played Zero before, these tunnels you get lost in quickly, and you won't see someone until like a minute in. So going to the tier list here, I think that Zero is gonna go into the Met tier. I think it's really good. Um, in terms of like if I'm in the mid and I get to the mid, I think it's awesome. I think it's a really fun map. If I get stuck in the back rooms or the back hallways, I am not having a good time. So I'm going to put it in the med tier. It has a similar problem as the Excite and Frists. You know, there's a reason why they're both, all three of them are going to be put together here. But yeah, I do recommend playing it and kind of giving it a chance. It's a lot of fun if you know what you're doing. If you don't, I wouldn't play Zero. I would choose definitely every other map above it instead of Zero. So I think that's where we're gonna leave that. So on to the next map. All right, now we are gonna be in. This is Sunken. I think visually Sunken is beautiful. I think it looks very pretty. I love the color palette. I love the accent with the, what is this, dark oak spruce again. The spruce and the leaves just coating the top of every hallway here. Then like you have these little fish tanks as well. Like these are pretty places. This is a pretty map. Even without shaders, it's a very beautiful looking map. It really accents well. And I just love the idea that it's like we're kind of underground, kind of not. Like this is our original foundation, and we just kind of fell into it. Very, very cool. Very Atlantis-esque. Going into game flow, I think this map is up there. I think this is definitely one of my favorite maps to be on. It reminds me a lot of Lost World in its verticality, where it's just everyone you spawn, whoosh, just falling straight into the map. You're jumping into this map. You are from every angle just trying to get to this center and do whatever you can to get a kill. I think it's great. There are maybe a slight hiccups. I think this back hall here, pretty annoying, pretty time consuming to get out. But there's always someone in front of you here. Getting stuck up here kind of sucks. If you're like in this area here, it takes you just a little bit to get out and then try to get into the action again. But honestly, that doesn't even really matter. There are elevators here. I'm not sure I've seen a single person use those. I don't feel like there's a single reason to use these little elevators. I think if you just jump straight into the mid, you are gonna die and you're gonna go up to the top. If you wanted to jump off, you'll get up there soon. But I think wholeheartedly, and we're just gonna go immediately to the tier list here. I think Sunken is probably up there in God tier for me. I think it gives me the exact same feel Lost World does, where it's just chaos in the center. Everyone's jumping in and going crazy. It's a lot of fun. I think it's what close to being a perfect map. I think it's exactly what you want in a Quakecraft map. This one was a lot faster, just because it reminds me so much of Lost World. It's the same general principle, maybe less verticality, but it's just jump into the center, jump into the center, jump into the center, jump into the center. Shoot from the sides into the center. Yeah, I think this map's great. I think it's a really good map. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, here we are in a pretty unique map in its own right. This is Town. I think visually a very, very cool looking map. I really can't describe it. It doesn't look like any town I've ever been in. I like the use of the terracotta. It's pretty nice. Generally, not a bad looking map. My personal tastes, I'm not a huge fan of the colors themselves, but I can see the artistic direction with them, and it's not bad. It seems like a lot of blank walls. You're not really looking at them though. So I guess that doesn't really matter, but I like the trees. They look cool. As much as I'm not really looking up in this map, it does look really cool. The scale is really nice. And speaking of scale, I'm almost positive this is the biggest solo Quakecraft map. It is big to a fault. In that if you are over here, say you spawn over there and you're walking over here, you can't see all the way down there. And that you can't see the people. People don't render in. The server render distance is, basically locks it for you. So you really can't see past, I'd say if you were over here and you were trying to shoot down here, I'm sure you can't see like past that red marker right there. So it's like everyone there and back. If there's someone staring down there, they can't see you and you can't see them. So it's a blind fire. It's very annoying. It happens in a lot of large corridors from here. It happens here to there. It happens from over there to actually, I think this is okay. I think this one's not that bad. I think if you were standing at this very back wall, you probably couldn't see anyone, but it's not that bad over here. It's mostly the hallway here, which is pretty much the mid. If you were to sort of piece together, like I had to pick a spot, it'd probably be this big ring right here is sort of the midpoint, just because of this stairs entering up here. The spawns are also a pretty bad spot, so let's just go into game flow. Game flow, when you're in the mid, even if you're in the mid, it can be pretty bad. It can be hard to find people, even in relatively full lobbies. Maybe not in a max capacity lobby, but if you are in a lobby with the minimum, it's you're searching, you're looking around. There's a lot of these back areas over here. Like this hallway here, you spawn in, you can get out and go there, or you can go around. This back hallway is, I think, one of the worst parts about this map. I hate this spot. This spot will get you. This will take you a long time to get out, and if there's no one here, you're fighting to get all the way over here to get back into the action. Hopefully someone spawns here so you can kill them while you're spending your time running all the way over there. It's just so big. I know I've been saying it in this entire video that big is good, especially with the idea with dash in mind. This is too big. Also, this tunnel is not my favorite spot to be in. It takes a while to get out of, and especially if you come out in this spot, you're kind of screwed until you get over here and then maybe halfway down here to kill someone. I think this map is too big, and that's a big problem. And I didn't even get to this spot. I forgot about this spot here. This spot sucks. This spot's miserable. I think this is a bad place to be. I would hate to be in this spot, because this, no matter where you go, if you spawn up there or you spawn, I'm not sure, I forget if you can spawn down here. I think you can, and you try to, you have to, I would recommend jumping down that hole and trying to get to the mid as fast as possible to kill someone. It's too big. That's kind of the big thing. It's just too big. So going to the tier list here, I think town is its problem is it can be fun, but I think it's too big for its own right. I think I'd much rather play Pseudo Dig Site and Frist before I played Town, and even then, I wouldn't want to play Town over Forgotten. I think Forgotten's probably my favorite here, or maybe even Pharah, but Town is too big, and that's a big problem in terms of game flow. I just wish if it was a little smaller and it got rid of those like underground tunnels, I think it'd be all right. But yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna say for Town. So let's move on to our last current map. And here we are at our active last map. This is our current Woodstone. I'm just kidding. This is Woodstone, the original Woodstone, and I'll be quite honest with you, this is kind of nostalgic for me. Also, I can understand why they got rid of it, because before I pressed record here, I did get lost. I was just kind of walking through these halls to kind of see, if I can remember any good spots about it, any good parts about it, and I would find myself walking out one door, into another, and then back into the original spot. I don't remember. I kept getting lost. This is what happened. I kept getting lost. It was pretty annoying, which is kind of funny. Overall, it has that sort of classic feel to it that a lot of the maps don't really have anymore. I think Forgotten is the only map that kind of takes this sort of feel and kind of has the same sort of like block palette where it's like oak, stone bricks, glowstone, all that. It's like the stone walls. It does have a lot of birch. I believe this is birch. Oh, this is oak, and then this is spruce. Some more spruce. It's a weird looking map. The best way to sort of show you what it looks like, at least the old one. So basically, think of the current map that we have. It's basically this L here with extra additions, and we'll go over those in a minute, with a little spot in sort of this square area here. So if I was looking at it, it'd be like this square area all the way here and sort of back over here. I think it's a little smaller than that, so it kind of goes out here. And that's our current map. So this map basically adds a second middle point and then adds basically a second version of the map to the outside here. So basically this area here is just this copied over on the other side. It's a pretty large map. And this middle spot is not just what's here. There is a downstairs. And I mean, when we talk about maps that are mazes, I think this is as bad as it gets. I'm walking through here and I don't even know where I'm headed. I'm walking this direction and I feel like okay, this is our normal map. So I turn around and I walk this way and I walk this way and oh wait, I'm back out in here again. But it's the other side. So it's a bit confusing. It's a bit crazy. And I mean, it's cool looking, don't get me wrong, but I don't see how this could function as a Quake map, especially with dash. Oh my goodness, this is a rough map to be in. It is nostalgic for me to look back here because I haven't been inside the original Woodstone map in a very, very long time. But yeah, there's no reason. This I would, and I'm just gonna say right now, this should be removed. Original Woodstone should be removed. I don't think it works as a Quake map. But it's cool to look at. I'll give you that. So let's go to the current Woodstone as we know it now. All right, this is our current Woodstone. I know it's not where we normally start because I've usually started inside the map, but I was just exploring it before I put the record on, and I was just impressed on how much of the outside they decided to actually keep building. And they even left this spot in, which is from the original part of the map. I mean, it's all from the original part of the map, but it's still crazy. Yeah, I just wanted to show that off because I never really look up there. You never look up there. You're always looking down and looking for people, so you never really noticed how much they actually put into the exterior of it, so that if you're looking out from any point in the map, it feels like you're in the original Woodstone map, which is actually really cool. It's a very smart way of doing things. But this is our current, as we know it, Woodstone, and as you can see already, just a huge improvement in layout. I think already I still love the palette combination. But they decided to open up everything, which I think is a great move. There is not really a huge point in this map that I say that kind of ruins it, that makes it frustrating to be in. Maybe this back part and maybe this part over here, but no, this is a really well reworked map. They like I said, they opened it up. Took dash into account, big doorways, less of these small maze-like places that will cause you to lose out on wherever anyone is. Honestly, this whole L spot right here is the mid, and honestly, action happens all across this map. I think this is definitely one of the best maps in terms of just action, chaos, just things happening all the time. This is definitely one of the best maps, if not the best in my opinion. So I think going to the tier list here, I think we're gonna put Woodstone, and I didn't really rank these, but I think Woodstone is, in my opinion, the best Quakecraft map in the game. I think it gives you everything that you want. Um, I would I would never skip this map ever. Definitely the best. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it for all the main maps. And now we're just gonna take a look at one more map on the tier list that I have here, and and we're gonna just kind of see where it kind of ranks with all the other maps. This is Library. This is a map that hasn't been in the game for quite some time. I could try and research it. I'm just not, because it doesn't really matter. It's probably not coming back. This map is one of those maps that I'm pretty sure was removed for a good reason. Um, it was never officially announced, I'm pretty sure, but it really is one of, if not the worst map, in my opinion, to hit the game. It is a tunnel simulator. There is there's no real way to get back to mid. As you see now, I'm trying. I don't know where I am. The mid being that big open area we started in just a second ago. I don't know where I am. I think this will take me back to this room here. So it's not that so visually I like the way Library looks. I think it is a pretty map. I think it's a fun map. I think it's one of the more fun ones. It's got a unique sort of style in that it has like a weird, I don't know. It's not to say it doesn't have a theme, because all the other maps have a theme. It's just that this is like, you are tiny and this is a library and you're in that now. Oh, there we go. Found it. But this map it's too big for its, what the heck? It is way too large. I don't even know what this is. Now we're just exploring. Interesting. But it's too big. It's full of tunnels. These tunnels are majority of the map. You can see that here, like just on the outside. This is all tunnels. This is a lot of the map here. And this is just one side of it. There's just tunnels everywhere. And like, if you were to camp, you'd just be standing here waiting for someone to waiting for someone to get to you. There's just so many ways to get out of the mid. It feels like it doesn't encourage you to go there, which I feel a good Quake map should. It is really, in my opinion, really bad. Maybe it could be fun because we have dash now. But I remember playing it and it just not being a good time. So I think I've said enough about it. Just like, it's too large. It suffers from the too large syndrome that I feel a lot of maps kind of get, but not to this scale. Just because it's too large and it's too tunnely. It's too hallway-y. Too many odd ways of getting out and then not coming back to the middle part of this map here. Oh, that's what this is for, so you can see out. Okay, let's go to the tier list here. I think Library should be removed. It is removed. It is removed already. So I think we've done our due diligence already. We've gotten rid of it. If I were to rate it, it would be a bad map. It is probably the worst. I'd say it's worse than Hustwood, and Hustwood is pretty bad with the tunnels. But this, I think, is worse. Does not promote a good experience here, and so that is all the maps on this tier list. And so yeah, that is my solo tier list. My solo maps tier list. I think that it's pretty good. There are definitely some things I'd be okay with switching, especially, moving Cold War up just another tier here. I would not be opposed to that. Um, I think my bad tier list could also. I feel like I might be a little too harsh here with Forgotten and maybe Town. These is just my personal opinions. So if you don't like them, you can absolutely let me know. Tell me about them. Talk to me about them. I'm absolutely not set in stone with a lot of these. I think a good portion of the very good people will agree with, and the good, and maybe the god tier. Um, I could have absolutely be swayed though. I'm a very impressionable person, so have a way at it. All right, quick thing. Since we're done with the solo and I have a lot more maps that I have downloaded, I thought maybe we might as well take a look and have some fun and maybe re-rank some of these maps down here, some of the team maps. That might be a lot of fun. So, why not? This is Belmorn. I will say I'm probably not the most qualified person, I would say, to be ranking the teams maps because I'm not a huge team player. I'm a team player in real life, just not a huge Quakecraft teams player. I have played on every single map, so I can give you at least my most basic opinions on them. So I think we'll start with Belmorn, and with Belmorn, I will say I do not like the Sandstone and Endstone combination at all. I am not a fan of just the look of this. I don't know what it's supposed to be. I don't know what it only reminds me of like some sort of like alien like planet. Maybe it's supposed to be like snow, like not snow, but like sand, like a wall of sand or whatever, but and like sort of like an arid desert area. I just don't know what this is supposed to be, and I really couldn't tell you what. Maybe it's supposed to be like a sand temple or whatever, but it screams to me like an alien world, and I don't really like it that much. So I guess that's all I really have to say about the sort of design of it. I think the layout is kind of confusing, but with there being like 50 people on the map at a time, I think that's all right. I do remember, and let's just get into the idea of what a teams maps game flow is really supposed to be. I think a good teams map spreads out the action. So when I spawn in this map, I personally immediately go straight down here. I think a lot of people do. You end up at what is sort of like the middle point of this map, and then I just keep going. I keep going until I get shot. I really don't care about dying in teams. I'm not sure if a lot of other people do, but it's a map that I feel has a lot of people running down this corridor here, this corridor, and this corridor over here, running down here and running to the mid. It's good because you get the action, but it doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't really spread the people out like it should. Like, I don't know if I've ever had a huge confrontation up here. I always end up coming through here and running straight back to the this point and I'll probably get shot there. And so this spot is a good spot for people to just kind of sit around and wait for you to come through and just go boom, boom. It's a I feel like it doesn't spread out. It's also not a very large team map compared to some of the other ones we're about to look at. I personally just don't like it visually. I don't think it flows as well as other maps we're gonna look at will do soon. So I think we're just gonna go ahead and open up the tier list here, and we're gonna put Belmorn in in the bad tier. Wait, what the heck? Why has this changed? Sorry about that. I don't know why that happened. But yeah, so I'm gonna put Belmore down here in the bad tier. I don't really like it. Visually, I don't like it. I don't like its layout, and I don't like how it doesn't really it doesn't push us out to the sides or anything like that. It just sort of like funnels us through the middle, and then we can maybe spread out if we want to. It just doesn't encourage a good team's gameplay, in my opinion. As a non-teams player. So yeah, let's go to the next one. Here we are on Ascended. Ascended visually is very simple. I like the floating platforms, though I never go to them. I do visually I like the way they look. I personally wouldn't go out here, because it'd probably get me killed as soon as possible. I really like the sort of sandstone texture, it gives me a little bit of Farah, and then the brick as an accent on the outsides. Those are really nice. I don't know what these random pillars are for, other than to be just something in my way. So, I mean, other than that, it's a totally fine map. It's very okay. I don't mind looking at it. I also just don't mind if it wasn't in my face. So that's that. Going into game flow, it is a very, very simple game flow. It's 3 paths. You pick one. It's either this way, or this way. So you have 3 options, and your way to get there kind of varies. If you're going down the center, you're just going down the center and hoping to God you're not going to get shot. And that's kind of your only move there. I mean, you could drop off to the side. I think it takes the going in one spot and sort of like as a choke point in these 3 lanes. And I think it does it very well, because especially on these sides, I'm not going to show you both sides because it's identical on both sides. This side, it's like a sort of like a dodging sort of thing. You can try to dodge the shots that's coming through. You can sort of, hold on. Sorry about that. I had to go reprimand somebody for interrupting. Yeah, so it's like a dodging sort of spree. You can try to, juke out whoever you're looking at you. Or you can take this and sort of try to go the out route, try to get there to the other side as fast as possible. Yeah, and so I think it's kind of a lot of fun. I know I've kind of harped on the idea of spreading out the players in the teams, because there's just so many. Is kind of a good thing to do on the team side. But I think that because there's only 3 options, it kind of spreads it out for you in a way where it's like, okay, there's only 3 options, and so we're gonna send three separate people down here and 3 separate people down here. So there's always someone to engage with, which I think is honestly, I'm not sure if it was designed like that, but I think it's kind of smart if it was. So there's always action wherever you go, which is really cool. I will say I think the biggest drawback to this map is the fact that it does the same thing that Town does, in that because it is so long, you can't see the person all the way down there. You'd have to get into a certain range about here before you start seeing someone running towards you, and it's not fun. It's not fun on Town. It's not fun on here. But I don't knock it too much, because there's just always someone coming down one of these lanes, and if you shoot blindly, you'll probably hit somebody. So I think with that, we can go to the tier list here. I personally, where is it? Okay, there it is. I'm gonna put Ascended in the very good tier. I actually really dig Ascended. Sort of talking out my feelings about this map. I didn't expect to actually really like it, but talking about it, I actually do quite a bit. So yeah, I think that's that. So with that, let's get to the next map. Next up is Reactor. Reactor is a very visually pleasing map. I can't say I don't like it. It is, I mean, whoa, even with the shaders, of course it's amazing looking. But even without the shaders, it is a beautiful, beautiful map. I'm a little biased. I do love this shade of purple. And so like I do like the colors a lot, but also just the shape of the map itself. This sort of Martian-esque, sort of build here, I think is really, really good. It's very simple. This big area is the middle. There's interaction from top down between either people up top with people up top, or people down low with people up top, or down low with down low. It's a very fun map. There's always someone around, so you can go crazy with it. I really enjoy this kind of map. It spreads everyone out a little bit, but they always converge kind of back into the middle part right here. So like if you're spawning out over on this side on red side, and you go out over here, and you end up going this way, and you end up back in the middle. I think that's really good. It spreads it out to bring it back in, well, so that everyone sort of, instead of just going, all right, gung-ho, straight down the center, they're kind of, all right, let's go. And then there's like people coming out this way, people coming out that way. I really enjoy it. I think it's a really well-built map. I sort of skipped the design, or I fast-forward through it so I could get to the game flow, because I do really enjoy the game flow of this map. I think that I'm going to, if I do play teams more, I'm going to try and get this map the most often. It's nice to have. I really, 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 really dig it. So I think with that, let's open up the tier list. I'm actually going to change my opinion on Ascended. I think what Reactor does better than Ascended is that sort of spread. I know that it's because Ascended's got that 3-lane split, that it doesn't really matter which side you go on. But I think I enjoy the gameplay a lot more on Reactor than I do Ascended. So I'm going to actually move Ascended down to the good tier, and keep Reactor in the very good tier. So with that, let's go to the next map. All right, and this is Depths. So Depths is a pretty map, and if you are keen enough to notice, this is actually the first version of Depths. I actually forgot when I started recording this video. I forgot that Depths had a rework done to it. I like the look of Depths. I know it reminds me a lot of Ancient, just with a different sort of twist on it. They've got the same sort of trees. That was it granite? Yeah, the polished granite. I actually like the granite a lot more in this map, combined with the netherrack and the clay. It's actually very, very good. Yeah, I think the layout is kind of tricky on this map. I think the reason why they had to revamp it was because of some of the spots, like over here. It was just like I go over here and it's not a fun time. I believe these fences, I'm not sure if they're still there, but I remember those fences being a problem, or some fence somewhere being a problem in this map. You can tell I don't play teams. So yeah, I think it's a fun map. I think everyone converges in one spot. I mean, you can always go that way. It does a very similar thing that Reactor does, I think, where you end up going out and you end up eventually coming back in. Although I do think this spot here does sort of lend itself to getting out of the way, which kind of sucks. This gets you towards the other team's spawn, and you'll just die here because of spawn prot. But yeah, I think this map looks good. I think the flow might be a little difficult. Oh, it's this fence right here. I remember that fence. Yeah, I think it's a very good map. In its original state, I believe it gets better in the second version. Whoa, what the heck? That was crazy. All right, this is Depths version 2. As you can see already, we've got the big change here. We've got some a new launch pad, so we can just go boom, go crazy into this. Um, as far as I'm aware, trying to do a little pre-investigation before I started, sort of reviewing this map. I don't really notice, and I'm sorry, I don't really notice too much done with this map, and to kind of see what is different with this between this and Depths version 1. I noticed that launch pad. I noticed a couple other launch pads. I'm not sure if they've changed. Um, I, I don't. Yeah, I don't really notice too much different. But like what's that? Oh, whoa. Okay. We're gonna come through here. Hold on. I wonder what this is. Oh. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we can just kind of keep looking around. Hold on. Well, there goes my plan to kind of make it a surprise. But normally, if you flip that switch, it would take you over here. I believe it's... Nope, not there. Sorry. I don't want to ruin the sanctity of this map. Or it's right here? Yes, right here. Sorry that this had to be closed off. A gift. And as you see here, it's a lot of the Apex colors. And this is what they added to Depths version 2. It's a recreation of the first Quakecraft. The first Quakecraft lobby. It is a really sentimental place. It's a pretty cool spot, because we don't have a lobby anymore. We used to have this lobby. We used to have the second lobby, and then now we don't have any lobby other than the classic games lobby. Sort of relegated to that. So to have it in a physical space where we can still access it is a pretty cool thing to have happen. I remember the first time when I believe it was a party, anniversary party or something, and we all got on Depths, and I saw this for the first time, and I was not to sound cringe or anything, it was kind of emotional. I hadn't seen the lobby in quite some time, so it's a pretty cool thing to be able to witness in person again. And so I think, going back to the tier list, I think Depths earns its spot as a god tier map. Sure, it may not play quite that amazing, and it may not be built to be super amazing, but by having this alone is enough for me, just on the sentimental value of it, to put it in the god tier category. So yeah, that's all the regular maps that we have. I was gonna go through the regular, and actually let's just do this. Oh wait, hold on, what's this say? And with that is all the regular maps, teams and solo. I was gonna do Quake duels, but I felt that everyone kind of has their own opinion on it, and mine doesn't really matter that much on the Quake duels maps. If you want to see the Quake duels maps, I might do it eventually. But with that, I think we've done a very good job here. A very good job with these. And with that is going to be all the maps ranked in teams and solo. I'm sorry about the teams maps. I am just really not much of a teams player. I wish I was. I would have a better opinion on all of these maps, but I am a solo dolo kind of guy. But I was also gonna do the duels maps, but I don't think my opinion on there's so many differing opinions on the duels maps. So I mean, if you want to, I can always do another one of these, a quick maybe 10-minute video of the duels maps. Uh, but it's totally up to you. Just let me know if you want me to. I think we did a pretty good job with our tier list here. I didn't want to remove any sort of map because I don't think any map should be deleted because we already have enough of that in deleted maps. I'm glad that I was able to take a look at all of these maps and kind of see their nooks and crannies, take a look at them in a nice light with these shaders on, kind of give them the best perspective they could possibly have. I am a more positive person when it comes to, maybe I'm too positive when it comes to ranking things. So I was not very harsh as much as I would like to have been. And that's why it looks so weird. um, as much as I would have liked to have been in this tier list here. Let me know if I should have changed any of my opinions here. Maybe I'm wrong on the Husswood and the town. Maybe I'm even wrong on library. So yeah, it's totally up to you. Just let me know. And with that, also real quick, this is editing nerd here. I know there's very minimal editing, so it's not really that big. But I also put the tier list in the description if you want it before I continue to keep talking about things. And if you want it, it's down there. Also, I'm sorry that this is I believe it's almost 2 hours long. My bad. I'll try to make the next one not as long. So that's it. All right, let's continue with the video. I'd like to say goodbye, and it's been really cool. It was really cool. I mean, before I say goodbye, I would like to. I think it was really cool to be able to look at the version ones of some of these maps. Like I haven't seen Husswood version one and not forgotten Woodstone version one in quite some time, especially with that level of detail. It's been so long since then. Uh, and then seeing library again, even though it's a terrible, terrible, terrible map, it was actually pretty nice. So with that, I goodbye. You can leave now. Why are you still here? What? Why are things on the screen? What is this? Am I in a video?